Hi, folks. Mark Merrill with Firm, Fairness in Reporting Media. Our program today is about where we are and what we're headed for, or where we're headed for. We're going to start the program today, folks, with our political side, with an interview we did recently with Maine GOP candidate David Jones out of Falmouth as he was making his paperwork into the Secretary of State's office on time to be on the ballot. So here's that interview we had recently with him at the early part of March.
Well, talking with David Jones, and you're from what town, sir? Falmouth, okay. And I hope you don't mind me asking you to get a brief bio. What's your background as far as getting to this point, running for governor?
I started construction when I was 17 years old, been self-employed my entire life. I've been in construction, real estate business my entire life.
Okay.
I really switched careers. And been married 40 years. I've got 6 kids, 8 grandkids. I own F.O. Bailey Real Estate. It's located in Falmouth, Maine.
Okay.
It's Maine's oldest continuous running company. It's been around since 1819.
Very good.
And I'm the 4th owner.
Well, good for you.
And that's the short story. Short.
Right. How far have you gone in the state of Maine so far as starting the new year off?
What do you mean?
Campaigning.
I just came back from Fort Kent yesterday.
Oh.
Right. So I've been all over Fort Kent, top to bottom, side to side.
Right.
I put over 22,000 miles on my vehicle since I started. That's probably just in the past 3 months.
Right. What's your goals as far as what do you propose for the state of Maine for the future?
Well, we just need good, solid structural changes. We need to make sure that people can afford to stay in their home. We make sure that they can afford to buy the food they want, fill their oil tank up when they need it, and let's see what we can do to lower these taxes, make it a little bit less oppressive. We've got affordable energy. It's a problem. Everyone knows what the problems are. Who are you going to hire? Who's going to be the guy you want to be your next governor? Is it going to be a guy that's just going to go up there and give you lip service, or is it going to be a guy that wants to get it done? I'm the guy that wants to get it done.
Okay, very good. What have you heard from constituents or people that you've come in contact with as far as what's really on their mind, what's important to them?
Well, the big thing is affordability. There's no doubt about it. Number one, affordability. So, they got to be able to stay in their homes. We have generational homes. People are forced to sell. Property tax is too high. I mean, we need jobs. How do we do that? We get businesses here. We got to have affordable energy. So it's.
Have you kept in touch with what's going on with the supplemental budget here at the State House? It's another add-on from Janet Mills, as you know. So.
Well, where's the stop? I mean, we went from 7.6 billion to 11.9 billion, and now they're going to go to 12.3 billion. It took us 200 years to get 7.6. Took her 7 years to get to 12 billion.
Okay. What's your next stop as far as being at the State House today?
Well, just talk to some folks, let them know who I am. With help, we'll be able to make Maine great again.
Any more debates coming up that you're...
And we certainly wish Mr. Jones the best on his campaign among the other 7 that are running for the GOP governor's race. And we will get to our next segment here, folks, in just a moment. We thank him for that. But in another avenue, folks, we want to bring everybody up to date as we are on a regular basis, folks, as far as the war in Iraq. And let Ben Shapiro, one of the premier podcasters, who's been out there for many, many years, and letting everybody know here in his presentation that he recently gave as to what really is going on the war in Iran and how the president is handling it, as well as the media, the negative media more than anything else, and tell you exactly where the heck he is headed and where we're headed, as we said. So, here is that information from a segment from Ben Shapiro on March 22nd as to what's going on out there and over there, straightening out Iran, shutting them down, all of our ships out there, hopefully no troops and boots on the ground as they talk about, We'll see how the rest of it pans out here in this report from Ben Shapiro.
The Iranians are running out of government figures, like literally running out of them. The expiration date on new appointees to top levels in the Iranian government is sooner than that bag of cheese you bought on discount a week ago. This is a chart of the Iranian leadership guild. Wow. Okay, so this is from the New York Times. And as you will see, in the defense establishment, everyone is dead. Everyone. So not just Ali Khamenei, who was, of course, the head of the regime. His son is probably at this point likely dead as well. We have not seen him in weeks. At the very least, he's in a coma. The entire defense establishment, every single human dead. Ali Larijani, who's a top member of the inner circle and sort of the guy who is seen as running the country, is dead. Basically, the only major figures in Iran who are still alive are Masoud Pezeshkian, the president, who is widely seen in international circles as kind of a weakling. He is not one of these sort of hardcore mullahs. And then the speaker of parliament, a man named Mohammed Khalibaf, and then the head of the judiciary, like a couple of stray figures. And every single day there is news that a person who has relieved another person as head of the Basij has been killed. So the United States and Israel are doing an extraordinary job of just devastating the leadership class in Iran. When you hear this dumb nonsense about how, every time you kill a terrorist, you make 1,000 new terrorists. Well, that's weird because, we've killed a lot of our enemies over the course of American history, and that's kind of how you win. My favorite part about that logic is the catch-22. You must leave your enemies in place to grow stronger, because if you kill them, they will grow stronger. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth pointed out how rough it is being a replacement Mullah's little helper these days.
The last job anyone in the world wants right now? Senior leader for the IRGC. Temp jobs, all of them. And to borrow a page from Admiral Ernest King in World War II, we've decided to share the ocean with Iran. We've given them the bottom half.
Well, with all of that said, the Washington Post reports that the Pentagon is now seeking resupply on our stocks of weaponry given the current war, which makes sense. We should always be stocked up. The Washington Post reports, quote, that number, it's like $200 billion rather, would far surpass the cost of the administration's massive airstrike campaign to date, and instead seek to urgently increase production of critical weaponry expended as U.S. and Israeli forces have struck thousands of targets over the past 3 weeks. According to 3 other people familiar with the matter, who confirmed the Department of Defense is seeking packages of that size. So the media are trying to say that if you want to fill in the gap, that is support for the Iran war, but that's actually not the point of the funding. We are already expending resources in Iran. So your choice now is to leave the larder empty. That is your choice. The reason you want additional funding is to maintain our preparation. Again, the cost of the war right now is about $1 billion a day, not $200 billion. The reason you need $200 billion is to not only restock the larder, but to prepare for the possibility of future conflict and to push your enemies off the ball, regardless of what you think about the action in Iran. Having an empty cupboard is really terrible policy. This is the point that Pete Hegseth was making yesterday.
$200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys.
Correct. The worst thing we could do right now is leave that cupboard empty. President Trump is changing the geopolitical map in real time in ways that will benefit Americans for generations to come. Imagine for a second a Middle East that is not a draw on American resources because the cancerous Iranian regime can't spread terror anymore. Imagine a barrel of Brent crude down basically permanently in the $40 to $50 range. That's what we're talking about, because if we open up Iranian production, say with American companies, then we will be making more money and the price of oil will dive. And imagine the Chinese government having to tiptoe around American interests because guess who controls their flow of oil from the Strait of Hormuz? And imagine the Russian government pressed because of that drop in the price of oil. Remember, they make more money when the price of oil goes up. And imagine the Russian government losing money and its sway in Syria and the Caucasus as a result of the downturn of Iranian power. It takes an awful lot of dislike of American power in the world to oppose our military having the resources that they require in a time of war. But then again, you can leave it to Democrats and presumably Rand Paul to try. So, by the way, where is the American public on all of this at the moment? There's a brand new poll from Politico breaking it down. Believe it or not, and you should believe it, 43% of Americans overall, that's Democrats, Republicans, and independents, are in favor of the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, including killing Khamenei and striking nuclear sites, compared to only 33% against. Among MAGA, right, the people we're told are breaking and leaving, among MAGA Republicans, that number is 81% approval, 7% disapproval. Among non-MAGA Republicans, 61% approval, 19% oppose. And imagine how much better those numbers would be if you didn't have the relentless drumbeat of anti-Trump, pro-Iranian propaganda. The question here is not whether America is going to win. We already are winning. We have destroyed pretty much everything there is to destroy in Iran, except for their desultory capacity to fire off cruise missiles and ballistic missiles at a wide range of countries in the surrounding areas and to fire off some drones at shipping. That's pretty much the last tactic there. The reason they're upping the ante today, they were firing ballistic missiles at the old city of Jerusalem, presumably in an attempt to spur some sort of region-wide conflagration in case they should hit, say, the Dome of the Rock. The only way we lose is if we quit. The only way we lose here is if people in the United States undermine us. Because what President Trump is doing here is, again, one of the bravest and great foreign policy decisions I've ever seen in my lifetime. Folks, spring is a natural reset point. And if you've been putting off cleaning up the messier parts of your business, now would be the time to make a change. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest and easiest.
That is the report from Ben Shapiro, folks. Thank him for that. Couldn't be said any better. And we do appreciate his amazing reporting, as he has always, from, I would say, 2005 to present day. So he's been at it a good 17, 18, almost 20 years. A little over, possibly. Let's hope this can all come to an end, folks. President Trump is the one to do it. And his staff and his cabinet are all doing their part to make sure that it happens. In the meantime, folks, we're going over now to a little bit more detail into the debate, the clash in the Queen City between the GOP gubernatorial candidates. Switching gears on that one here a little bit. As we do that, we got a report finally from Steve Robinson, the editor-in-chief of the Maine Wire, which came through to us back on March 26th in his Robinson report, right here. Polling before and after totals from people that were not only in attendance, a little over 400 at the Cross Center in Bangor, folks, but I'll give you the statistics and the details of the amount of people that were actually tuned in online. It's amazing. People of Maine just goes to prove, ladies and gentlemen, we all know it's time for change. Stop the corruption. Stop the lying. Stop the taxation without representation. Now, Mr. Robinson starts off his statement here, folks, by saying, as promised, the pre- and post-debate surveys state the obvious, he says. It's not a random sample. It's only subscribers to the Substack, to Substack itself. That's the name of it, Substack.com. Basic math means you need to have a sample size that's representative of the people who will turn out on primary election day for it to have some predictive value. Mr. Robinson's subscribers, being smarter and prettier than your average Mainer, of course he's being tongue-in-cheek, folks, are not perfectly representative of the electorate. But you can't quite explain and give out the findings to the entire Republican Party, but the results and changes between the two polls are interesting nonetheless. Now, here we go. Bobby Charles ended the debate with a big lead, and nothing that happened on the stage changed that. Before the debate, among respondents who named a single preferred candidate, Bobby Charles led with 51%. Who was the closest one to him? Believe it or not, folks, newcomer Garrett Mason at 9.7%, almost 10. But here's one that's a kicker, folks. Which GOP candidate are you leaning toward for governor? The question posed online. Bobby Charles, as we said, 51%, Garrett Mason, 9.7%, none or undecided, 22.4%. Kind of amazing there. Next question, moving along. Who do you think is going to win the GOP nomination? For 65% Bobby Charles, 13.8% Garrett Mason, 8.2% Jonathan Bush. So, again, Interesting, folks. Now, there was a mention here of Ben Midgley, who said it looked like that he might be the biggest debate winner. Pre-debate, 5.7 subscribers percent were leaning in his direction. Post-debate, he drew over 25%. He also finished second in who won the debate with question with 22.1%. Now, as we continue on, folks, to wrap this part of the program up, as we're talking about where we are and where are we headed. Who won the GOP gubernatorial debate that night? That was Tuesday, March 24th, to be exact. Bobby Charles, 47%. Ben Midgley, 22%. The next closest was Owen McCarthy, 14.0%. If the GOP primary election were held today, Mr. Robinson posed, March 24th, 2026, who would you vote for? Still, Bobby Charles increased his lead, 48%. Ben Midgley at 25%, as previously mentioned. And neck, just below 8%, Garrett Mason, Owen McCarthy, and Jonathan Bush. Now, one thing that Mr. Robinson wanted to point out, the pre-debate file includes some multi-candidate answers, so the exact level of the starting support is somewhat fuzzy, but no matter how you cut it, post-debate file shows Mr. Midgley got the most upward movement out of the debate. And moving on to towards the end of this particular segment, folks, as we're talking about where we are and where we're headed for, as far as the Maine Policy Institute and Maine Wire's Queen City Clash, a state GOP gubernatorial candidate debate at the Cross Center in Bangor. Again, from Steve Robinson. He said, most importantly, 94% of poll respondents said the Maine Wire team should produce and moderate more debates in the future. That's about 6 points lower than you'd like, but doesn't take it personally, he says. Can't all be perfect. Likewise, 97%. You might find this one interesting, folks. 97% of respondents online wanted to see the Maine Wire stage a debate for Democrat candidates. How about that? In addition, here's the big one, folks, as far as who was chiming in and who was paying attention in the state of Maine. About 400 people packed into the Cross Center that Tuesday evening, March 24th. More than 60,000, that's right, 60,000 viewers tuned into the Maine Wire debate on Facebook alone. With several thousand more on X.com, formerly Twitter, and YouTube. So if the Democrat candidates actually want an audience for their debates, he says, you know how to get a hold of me. Plain and simple, folks. For some more information on this, ladies and gentlemen, we have some additional news coming through on the candidates in the state of Maine running for governor, as well as you should keep track of your local events, local candidates that are running for council or for other town and city locations and school boards, things of that nature, departments. These are the candidates, folks, and that's where it was. Facebook, YouTube, and X. A special announcement, though, coming up here, folks. We're about to bring that to you right now. You might find this a little bit interesting. Bobby Charles got an endorsement. Isn't this great? Who it's from? That's right. You're looking at the right guy. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich endorsed Bobby Charles for governor of the state of Maine in 2026. Now, how do you say that is that possible, folks? Well, it came down on Mr. Charles's site. It also came down from his news. On March 23rd, late in the day. Mr. Gingrich endorsed Bobby Charles, ready to beat the left, cut the taxes, and end the drug epidemic. Speaker Gingrich, one of the most consequential political leaders of our time, threw his full weight behind Bobby Charles for governor of Maine, folks. Of course, Mr. Gingrich, a renowned strategist who knows what it takes to win big elections, declared Charles the clear choice to crush crime and deliver historic tax relief to hardworking Mainers who are being pushed to the brink by the failing liberal establishment of Janet Mills and company. Winning is not just an option for Maine, it's a necessity. And Bobby Charles is a proven crime fighter who can beat the corrupt Augusta cabal, said Mr. Gingrich. He says he's known Mr. Charles for years and watched him take on cartels and criminal organizations, and he's bringing that same grit to the Pine Tree State. The era of weak republicanism is over. Maine needs a governor who will clean up our streets, shut down the pro-criminal agenda of the elites, and return power to the people. Bobby has the kind of strength we see from President Trump. He's the only candidate who will truly win the fight to restore law and order to make Maine a state where families can thrive. Gingrich emphasized, while the corrupt Augusta Democrat establishment has tried to hold Maine back with high taxes and soft-on-crime policies, Mr. Charles represents a new chapter of strength and results. Gingrich continued, quote, Janet Mills and the establishment have turned Maine into a playground for the far left, but the cavalry is coming with a leader who knows how to win. Bobby Charles said, I'm incredibly honored to have the endorsement of a conservative legend like Newt Gingrich. He knows exactly what it takes to defeat the swamp and lead a winning ticket. Newt understands this campaign is about taking our state back right now. We are running the corrupt elites out of town, securing our borders, and putting Maine families and their wallets first. Just one more thing about Mr. Charles, ladies and gentlemen, and you can certainly look it up in bobbyformaine.com. His website, bobbyformaine.com. He is a former federal investigator, 10-year Navy veteran, and conservative reformer running for governor of Maine. His campaign is focused on fighting crime, lowering taxes, and ending woke nonsense to Augusta. Thank you, Mr. Gingrich. As always, ladies and gentlemen, you can count on us as well. Mark Merrill here on Firm, Fairness in Reporting Media. We're all about, as mentioned at the beginning, truth, facts, reality, and common sense. You can find us on social media at YouTube, X, and Substack. Contact us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. Everyone pray for our country, our state, to become more secure and more prosperous in the months ahead and the years ahead. Peace to all.